Welcome to the third and final day of the third annual Israeli Agri-Food Tech Global Investor Summit, brought to you by Growing IL and Startup Nation Central. Again, I'm your host, Shmuel Rausnitz, Startup Nation Central's sector analyst for Agri-Food Tech. We now turn our attention to a couple of special topics: animal agriculture and its rivals, and other financial investing models. Let's get right into it. Is the livestock industry going to disappear? Join me in a session we conducted earlier with 3 leaders in the field to hear their outlook on the industry, what tech is making animal agriculture more effective, and where they think Israeli startups can contribute. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining the Prospects for Animal Agriculture panel. We have 3 fantastic guest speakers joining us from around the world. Guy Harari, Senior Global Director at Adiseo, Fabio Bagnara, R&D Director at BRF, and Joost Matthijssen, Investor at Nutreco. So why are we talking about the prospects of animal agriculture? On the one hand, the livestock industry contributes to about a third of all protein intake by human beings, according to the FAO. And it's also shown that the industry is a economic driver prompting growth in various other industries as it grows. On the other hand, some are saying, including a report that came out about a year ago, that animal agriculture is unsustainable and won't even be around in 15, maybe even 10 years. So we have 2 competing views on the prospects of the industry. And this dichotomy is reflected in the innovators as well. On one hand, we have technologies that are ameliorative. They're making the industry more efficient, including making animal byproducts healthier, giving animals better experience, and curtailing detrimental environmental impact as well. On the other hand, we have technologies based on a totalistic approach. Okay, these are plant-based culturing technologies that give us dairy and meat products while completely removing animals from the equation. And they've raised a lot of VC in the past years, reaching about 700 million in 2019, according to PitchBook, of which Israeli startups represent about 10%. So these are the issues for the prospects of the industry. But let's hear from 3 senior professionals in this field about how they see these things and how they can be engaging Israeli startups. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate having you here. Could I ask each of you to very briefly introduce yourselves? Let's start with Guy Harari.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Shmuel, for the opportunity. Really honored to participate in this panel. I have been with Adiseo for almost 40 years, and Adiseo is one of the leaders in nutritional feed additives. We are in the methionine, vitamins, and specialty products supporting the animal production industry. So you were asking about how we see the livestock production industry globally and how it's evolving.
Guy,
I think this is an industry.
Before you continue, so let me come back to you in just a second. Let me just have the other 2 guests introduce themselves, and then
Sure.
I'm going to be curious for your input. Fabio, could you just introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Fabio Bagnara. I'm R&D Director for BRF. I'm based here in Brazil. BRF is a Brazilian company that acts globally, producing and distributing and selling mainly food, meat products from chicken and pork. And thank you for inviting me.
Our pleasure.
Joost.
Yeah, hi Shmuel, hi Guy, hi Fabio. Thanks a lot for the invite to SNC. Honored to be here. My name is Joost Matthijssen. I'm Director of Venturing at Nutreco. Nutreco is headquartered in the Netherlands, but a global feed company, so supplying feed to livestock, to pet food, and to agriculture across many different products, including mixed products as well as feed additives. And I head up our startup and scale-up investing. So we're a corporate producer of feed, we're an innovator, but we're also an investor and partner for startups in this space.
Excellent. So I got things off to a contentious start, and Guy, you started to get into it. Let me just frame the issue, and then I'd be curious if you can respond. The livestock industry, is it going to disappear? How do you see these claims of an impending doomsday around 2030 or so for animal agriculture?
That's an interesting way to start to warm us up for this conversation.
Get right to it.
The livestock industry has done a tremendous job over the several years, and is going to continue to thrive. We are doing everything we can to continue to produce abundant, affordable, healthy, and safe food for a growing population. We are going to be 8.5 billion in 2030. Income per capita is growing, so the demand for protein, and especially meat, egg, dairy products, animal-derived products, is growing significantly, and will continue to grow. I hear your question about this debate about what is healthy, what is sustainable, and I think this is a very much needed debate. However, I think we need to make a productive debate about those issues. We have done, I would say, agriculture in general, and in particular the animal production industry, which we all support, has done a tremendous job in terms of productivity. We produce today much more with much less. If you see agriculture, the yield of corn yield is increasing continuously. Animal production is continuously growing and using less resources. If you take one example, for chicken, for example, decades ago you were using 3 kilos of feed to produce 1 kilo of meat or chicken meat. Nowadays you are producing the same amount of meat with half the amount of feed. Feed conversion, as we call it, is 1.5. So the productivity that is being developed in this industry is there's no parallel in any other industry. So we are doing a great job, and we will continue to do a great job in terms of producing more with less and much less waste. And I think this is a big theme that we continue to develop.
So it sounds like the prospects for animal agriculture are actually in line with some of the sustainability values that have become more prominent for consumers and for the industry.
Absolutely. Everything that this industry is doing is going towards sustainability. When we improve feed conversion, when we improve animal welfare, when we focus on animal health for them to produce quality meat, quality eggs with less resources, I think we are all focusing on sustainability. And that's an industry that has adopted significant new technologies, and mimicking the agriculture crop business. I think animal nutrition is going to be on the same pathway, and with those new technologies, we are going to continue to be a tremendous source of protein for the humanity.
So let me actually move the conversation over to Joost. Joost, could you comment a little bit on how you see the Totalistic solutions, the alternative protein solutions, in the context of a thriving livestock industry, from the perspective of Nutreco, for example?
Sure. And I think Nutreco's perspective, our mission is feeding the future. So I can only echo what Guy said. The population is going to grow, income is going to grow, demand for protein is ever increasing, and we'll need all the sources that we can get, and that includes animal protein sources. I think there's lots of challenges that we have to address as a livestock and aquaculture sectors to enable all that growth in a sustainable and resilient way. But that's very all feasible, and I think there is a track record of the industry being able to do that. At the same time, there will be a place for alternative food proteins. At the end of the day, it boils down to consumers' choices. They want to have the choice between animal proteins and alternatives, and that trend is playing out to different extents in different parts of the world. But it will become a significant part of the future protein landscape. And that's why we're engaging both with innovators in the animal protein production chain to deploy solutions that make that existing production more sustainable, as well as also invest and partner with companies looking to create new technologies for alternative food proteins. So as an example, we have invested into 2 cell-based protein companies, Mosa Meat producing beef in the Netherlands, and Blue Nalu producing cell-based seafood in the west coast of the US, based in San Diego, to explore what kind of opportunities the creation of these new value chains will generate for a company like Nutreco. Because we feel that our capabilities as an input and ingredients provider and a knowledge partner in the animal protein segment would also create opportunities to do similar activities in the alternative food protein chain. So that's why we're excited about those developments. Of course, they will have an impact. They could be threats, but we mostly view them as opportunities for future growth and partnership.
Great. Fabio, do you have any comments about the same scene, or can I ask you or any of the other guys to comment on some of the technologies that you've been most excited about over the last 5 so years that are becoming especially relevant for your companies?
Okay. I agree with Guy and Jos that the company, the business is not going to disappear. In fact, is moving very fast in the direction of being more efficient in the use of the natural resources, or even, in fact, in feed conversion or in sanitary aspects of the production. As an R&D director here at BRF, I'm in the front end of a very, very long and complex chain of meat and food production. So I'm in touch with the consumers, and sometimes the consumers don't know about how complex is the production and how much care we take during the production. So I think the future is a relationship more transparent with our customers, and to explain how the animals or how the feed are produced, or how the food is produced. So that's my comment about the future. And about the technology. Well, the images, the analysis of images was the technology I saw in the past that is going to change this industry, I think. Because when you put a camera on a livestock production site, you can monitor, you can see the behavior of the animals and try to identify some or diseases, trying to reduce the use of antibiotics, for example, or try to improve the animal welfare. So the future, I think it's bright for this industry. Of course, we have some hurdles to face, but it's okay. It's part of business.
Do you do you mind commenting on what some of those hurdles, technological hurdles, look like for either BRF or Guy? I'd be curious to hear from you. These hurdles obviously present opportunities for the innovators to solve some challenges that would be high value in the industry.
Yeah, I think what we are seeing, and especially in the last few years, and we are going to see more and more, and something that is really fascinating is smart farming. What is being done, and Fabio mentioned a little bit about it, but being able to capture all the information that you have in a farm, in a barn, in a chicken house, being able to capture information like the temperature, the humidity, the ammonia emissions, CO2, measuring feed consumption. You can measure now a pig weight based on image. You can, some people are developing technologies to measure how much a cow is eating on an individual basis. In capturing all this information and being able to put them in a dashboard and optimize production, optimize welfare, and also being able through collars in cows to detect preclinical diseases and anticipate the problems and try to predict what's going to happen, and being able to predict chicken weight 2 or 3, 5 weeks before it goes to slaughtering and processing plants. I mean, we are entering a fantastic area, and I think for animal production, we are now entering the 21st century.
Joost, could I ask you to comment on, I mean, does it look the same for Nutreco? And I'm curious also, Fabio, if it looks similar. I mean, it sounds like the smart farming solutions, the sensing-based, very, very heavy on computation, being able to read exactly what's going on with every animal in the farm. That is where the value is for your companies representing the industry. Does it look similar, Joost, or are there any other kinds of technologies that are especially standing out to you?
No, I would echo that. I think the overall overarching challenge is making protein production more sustainable, including more animal friendly, more efficient. And that to a large degree hinges on precision farming, precision feeding, giving the animal exactly what it needs at each moment in time. But also that digital is a key enabler for that. I'm very excited and encouraged by everything I see on the digital front. I think that's really taking a big step forward as we speak. I think keeping animals healthy is also a key challenge, and there I see quite some advances that on not just the pharmaceutical side, but also nutritional health side, with new technologies coming into the fold that increase the portfolio of choices for farmers and professionals to keep their animals healthy, robust, resilient. That's an area that also very much excites us. And I think to turn the spotlight onto aquaculture, that's a key industry for us, of course, as the parent company of Skretting, the largest global supplier of aquaculture feed. One technology that's getting quite a lot of attention presently is land-based aquaculture. So the moving of aquaculture production from the seas and the oceans onto land into recirculation systems. We've made a number of investments into a number of exciting projects in the Netherlands, into China, into the US, because we see the potential of this technology. That is actually also partly enabled by Israeli technology. Aquama'ov is a provider of technologies and equipment for some of these farming projects. So that's an area that we're also pretty excited about. I think generally, I share the optimism that was shared by Guy and Fabio. I think technology is really accelerating. Nutreco recently held our Feed and Food Tech Challenge, so a startup competition aimed at getting in touch with innovators into this space. And we were almost overwhelmed by the number of applications that we had. We had 110 innovators globally reaching out to us, where we selected 15 finalists, but there was really a lot of exciting technology to choose from. So generally very encouraged across these different areas that I just mentioned.
Well, I wanted to ask Fabio if you wanted to add anything, but I'm wanting to move into what Joost is already bringing up. So let me just check. Fabio, do you have anything to add about interesting technologies right now that are really speaking to you? Or should we move into the next?
The importance of traceability. So when you use technology, it's very easy to trace all the steps of the food chain. So that's also important. Just this comment.
Thank you. That's a very important one to bring up, actually. I haven't seen a ton of traceability tech coming out of Israel, even though I think that we have the means to make some great solutions. So it's perhaps an opportunity for innovators that are trying to identify where exactly to put their attention. But I wanted to go back to what Joost had started to bring up, which is models for interacting with startups, especially with Israeli innovators. I want to know what each of you propose, or what you're already pursuing, or have pursued, or are thinking of building to engage with Israeli innovators so that they can start to get plugged into any open innovation program that would bring them closer to working with your companies. Since we just came to you, Fabio, do you have any comments on that? Even if it's a program that is used in different countries, but could be applicable to the Israeli ecosystem.
Okay. Our company, BRF, we have a startup connection program we call BRF Hub. We are a 86 years old company that needs to oxygenate our structure, our ideas. So for us, it's very important. Just in the last year, we connect the company with more than 150 startups, mainly from Brazil, but we start to work with Israel, because of the technology, of course. It's very, very good in technology, and the ability to work with less resources as in a small country with less natural resources than here in Brazil we used to work with. That's the point for BRF.
Guy, could I ask you to comment about potential models of collaborating?
Yeah, we at Adiceo, we went through a transformation about 3 years ago. We reorganized the company in strategic business units, methionine, vitamins, and specialties, and those businesses have their own strategy and continue to grow. But we also created a cell that we call InnovLab, which manages what we call our open innovation. So all the connection to startups, VCs, and universities. We have a fund in Europe called AVF, through which we have already invested in 7 startups, mostly in Europe, but also in North America, and one company in Israel about a year and a half ago. We are also investing directly in startups, and not necessarily through our fund, but when the investment is more significant, we invest directly. And one example is the investment in Calista and the joint venture Caliseo on single-cell protein, building a plant in China for the aquaculture market. And we continue to explore new hubs in terms of technology. And well, I have to thank you personally, because over the last 12 months, you were the one that really opened the door to the Israeli ecosystem, which is a fantastic ecosystem. I've been spending quite some time, and I'm convinced that there is room for us to do a lot in Israel with Israeli startups. The number of startups is quite amazing, with significant breakthrough technologies. And I think while today you have all these ag tech funds and VCs and hubs, today we may envision to have an animal tech fund or VCs really putting more focus on the animal production, rather than a combined model where you have both crop and animal at the same time. But I think there's huge opportunities, and we are looking into opportunities in that direction.
Awesome. Joost, any comments on models, opportunities for Israeli startups to be engaging with Nutreco?
Sure. Yeah. So I already mentioned our Nutreco Feed and Food Tech Challenge. That's a startup competition that we organize every 2 years. We just had the last edition, but a new one will be coming up sometime soon. We had the pleasure of having Poltrix there, Israeli livestock digital startup that came top 3. So that was a great example of an Israeli innovator reaching out to us already in the early stage and exploring partnerships. As I mentioned, we can be an investor, we can be a partner, we can be a supplier, we can be a customer, we can be a joint venture partner. We're actually almost tool agnostic. If we find great technology that we feel can really make a difference in our markets and can fit with us strategically, then we're looking to get in touch. And our value proposition is to be an added value partner and an accelerator of development. Maybe an example to illustrate that is our investment and partnership with Viaqua, an Israeli startup company focused on developing a new health feed ingredient for shrimp aquaculture. Of course, that's not the biggest market in Israel itself currently, but I think it's a showcase and a testament of all the great technology being developed in Israel on a very fundamental level. That is, in looking for the right application. I think there we made an investment and we forged a partnership helping them to fine-tune their application based on our expertise, experience, our access to market. And we've entered into the co-development to jointly develop that product further. And I think by leveraging our global reach, our R&D expertise, our commercial network, I think we can effectively shave off years of that time to market, and therefore make sure such a startup uses its resources effectively. Of course, that's not easy, right? There's quite some challenges involved in structuring corporate startup partnerships. Sometimes we get the criticism that corporates get the criticism that we're slow, and I can't claim that we're able to operate at startup speeds. That's a big part of my job, is trying to get things in motion in-house. But I really believe that if you want to go fast, you should go alone. But if you want to go far, you should go together. And that's also the proposition that we try to develop towards startups across the verticals that we invest in partner.
Well said. I don't know how we've gotten to this point, but we've actually run out of time. I was sure that we'd be able to speak more, but I really appreciate the input that each of you have brought to this conversation. And I think you've left us on a note of optimism about the opportunity that exists for Israeli agri-food tech companies to be engaging with your company specifically and other companies in the industry. I think you represent the demand, and I think that the more that there's demand and the Israeli sector sees that, the more they're going to be turning their innovation capacity for or toward the issues that you've brought up. So I hope that this panel has been valuable for all in attendance, and I believe our three guests have been roaming around the summit during this time and will continue to, so I hope that you'll be engaging them. These are three excellent partners for the ecosystem who are ready and eager to engage with the companies in it. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at the next session.